Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's unfortunate I'm coming after a very big technical presentation from Dawn and then a very good icebreaker, but I'm glad to join you. My name is Nsimbe Kassim. I'm from Parliament of Uganda. The Parliament of Uganda has been part of this process for 11 years, I think, for the last 10 plus years. We are part of you, and my role today is to run you through the 50 years of the Parliament of Uganda. Do we have students of French in here? That word, I've tried to read it several times and failed. Parler. I'm told it means to speak. And that is how we get to Parliament. Members of Parliament are voted into office to speak. You are here as a debater to do what? Speak. Listen, comprehend, speak. So, Parliament is for speaking, and it is the national legislative body. Yes, we have members of Parliament from across the country. You elect them, and others are appointed by the President, and it is one of the three arms of government. We all know the three arms of government. Yes, at your level, this is not a discussion. The three arms of government, and Parliament is one of them. Okay. So what are the four cardinal roles of members of Parliament? What do members of Parliament exactly do? You vote for them, yes, and after voting for them, what happens during the period of 5 years? Role number one is legislation, to make laws. The Parliament of Uganda is mandated to make laws. Laws on what? Whatever you are debating on corruption, transparency, accountability, anti-corruption, all the agencies we are talking of, the majority have been set up by Parliament. The Office of the Auditor General, the IGG, the oversight committees of Parliament, all these are enshrined in law. If you look at all the other laws that govern the country called Uganda, it's the Parliament that is mandated constitutionally to make laws. You'll ask a question about the other two arms of government. Do the judges make laws? They will interpret the laws passed by Parliament. They will send you to the University of Understanding using the laws in place established by the legislature. That's why the Parliament is referred to as the legislature, the legislative arm of government. Its role is to make laws. Other than making laws, Parliament also handles the national budget. Look at it as a cake. Call it a birthday cake now for us. Everyone wants to walk away with the biggest piece. Education feels all the teachers must be paid equally, not only science, but also we need more resources, capitation grant coming to the education sector. And then energy sector. My grandmother, deep in Butambala, has never had access to power 50 plus years after independence. And then the health sector. Why don't we vote more resources to health so that there is equal access to health by all? But then we also claim Uganda is the food basket of the region. Why don't we have all resources going to agriculture? ICT, physical infrastructure. You talk of roads, bridges, you talk of potholes today. The budget that will be passed in June maybe should focus on potholes, on physical infrastructure. But you have competing sectors. Right now, that is a process going on in Parliament. every government agency, every ministry, every sector has submitted their wish list to Parliament. The budget will be presented by the Minister for Finance in June, but Parliament has to pass that budget by the end of May. In a week or two, the national budget will be approved. And that is the role played by Parliament. Okay, after approving the resources, we come to exactly what you are discussing, oversight. Wherever Parliament approves 1 shilling for road construction, 6 months down the road, Parliament is looking at that individual, that ministry, that organization that received the resources. Have those resources been used appropriately? That's where the famous committees of Parliament will come in. The Committee of Public Accounts, the Public Accounts Committee, the Committee of COSASE, its commissions, statutory authorities and state enterprises. We have another committee on local governments. Whoever receives a shilling of taxpayers' resources, you must account. When you don't account, the state agencies will play their role. Representation. The members of Parliament that you elect go to Parliament to do what? To represent you, to present your views. Actually, when they come to the podium, they say, please vote for me. I will go and represent you in Parliament. This is a representative democracy. So each part of Uganda has a representative in Parliament. And their role is to be the voice of the people that voted for them. There are several other roles. Parliament vets persons appointed by the President as ministers, as ambassadors, as judges. They also mobilize the communities to support and participate in government programs. There are several government programs. It's the role of parliamentarians to support those programs. Okay, other than that role, where do we come from as Uganda? Remember, I said we shall touch briefly the history, role, and functions of Parliament. Our history is very long. Some of this you study in school. Some of these you've seen. But all those are pointing at a form of administration. Where did we start from? Remember, even before the colonialists got here, we had a form of administration in our villages. The village chiefs. You mean before the United Kingdom sent a team here, our villages didn't have chiefs? We have chiefs, chiefdoms, kingdoms spread all across Africa. But when the colonials got here, the form of administration started changing. By 1888, when the Imperial British East African Company set foot here, we had a form of administration, but it was changed to suit the interests of the colonialists. So this is the journey that we've traveled all the way up to 1962 when we attained independence. It's been a journey of so many highs and lows. But by 1945, that is when the signs of the real Ugandans appearing in the management of the matters of this country started. 1945, yes, that's when we had the first 3 Ugandans to go to the Legico. Ernest Kawala Kagwa for Buganda, Peter Nyangabyach for Western, and Yekonia Zabamzare for Eastern. And then in 1948, Northern Uganda also sent in a representative. That is the team that ran us all the way up to the famous elections of 1961 to Legico, and then to independence in 1962. That is where now we start modern Uganda. Seen him before? Sir Edward Frederick William David Walugembe Mutebi Luwangula Mutesa II the first president of the Republic of Uganda. Yeah, there are so many names, but we always stop at Sir Edward Mutesa. He was the first president of the Republic of Uganda at independence, with his friend Dr. Apollo Milton Obote as executive prime minister at independence. Those are the ones that received the instruments of authority. Mutesa was supposed to, I think, last 5 years in office. Unfortunately, he didn't make the 5 years, because by 1966, his government had been overthrown by his former friend Dr. Apollo Milton Obote in the famous Buganda crisis of 1966. How we got into that crisis, there are so many conspiracy theories. But it happened. And that was the first coup, a military coup, that Uganda experienced in its post-independence period. When Dr. Obote took over power, he had been Prime Minister of the Republic of Uganda. But among his changes, he abolished the post of Prime Minister. The Prime Minister had executive powers, so he knew if he elected a Prime Minister, he would also be overthrown. So immediately after assuming the seat of President, Dr. Apollo Milton Obote abolished the post of Prime Minister. He served as the President of Uganda from 1966. Unfortunately, he could also not last the 5 years, because he had another friend, a commander of the forces, Field Marshal Idi Amin Dada, who in 1971 overthrew the president. So the first president was overthrown within a period of 5 years. Mutesa never served 5 years. Obote one never served 5 years. And then for a period of 8 years, rule was by military decree. Parliament was dissolved. That was the first time we didn't have parliament. We had a first parliament under Mutesa, a second parliament under Obote one. Then when Idi Amin Dada became the president of Uganda, parliament was dissolved. But we had Parliament House. You recall the other building that I showed you? It was in existence, but it was only for the army, the top brass that would access Parliament. But that was still the law-making organ, but not Parliament of Uganda. So for 8 years, we had Field Marshal Idi Amin Dada as the President of the Republic of Uganda, who in 1979 was also overthrown. But he was the first president to govern Uganda for 8 years. Mutesa had failed. Obote himself had failed. Then we got an army general, Field Marshal Idi Amin Dada, president for 8 years, till 1979, when combined forces overthrew Obote. Then now we came to the region of the elite. All these were highly schooled. 1979, Professor Yusuf Kironde Rule became president, replacing Idi Amin. How long did he last? 68 days. Fast forward, another professor, Queen's Counsel, Godfrey Rukongwa Binaisa, highly educated, 11 months. By the way, all these are presidents of Uganda. We are talking of presidents. In the transition, we came to a part of our history that many of us have never heard of. Have you heard of the Presidential Commission of 1980? At one time in our history, the seat of President of Uganda was designated to 3 individuals: Hunter Wacha Olwol, Saulo Musoke, and Polycarp Nyamuchocho occupied the seat of President of Uganda between May and December 1980. So wherever we talk of former presidents of Uganda, they are former presidents of Uganda. And Parliament recognized them about 5 years ago. One of them, I think, could have been Wachwa Olol, died about 5 years ago. But by the time of death, he had been recognized as part of the former presidents of Uganda. These ones were appointed by a then military commission. The military commission appointed them, and these ones organized the famous elections of 1980. You've always heard of the famous elections of 1980. This is the team that organized the famous elections of 1980. Okay, in 1980, Dr. Apple Milton Obote, who had been overthrown, returned for a second term, serving as president. Again, Obote did not last the 5 years, because by July he was no more. Another Army General, Tito Okero Lutwa, had overthrown Dr. Obote. All this is the history of Uganda. 50 years summarized for you. Okay, in 1996, there was a change of guard. The National Resistance Council of the NRA, the NRA was a rebel outfit, the National Resistance Army, took over power, and Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, His Excellency, the chair of NRC, took oath at the steps of Parliament. The NRC, the National Resistance Council, the current Parliament now, started its journey. It started with 38, and then the numbers grew, and it lasted a whole 10 years. The longest Parliament, but it came out with the famous Constitution of 1995 that we follow today. So from 1985, with the new Constitution, we started our journey of a new Parliament. The Constitution says we have elections every year, every 5 years. So this is the run. 1986, we had elections. That was the 6th Parliament of Uganda since independence. The current Parliament is 11th Parliament, so how do we arrive at the number 11? That's where the count now comes from. For those who were adults in 2001, you participated in elections. After 5 years, 2006, following a constitutional command, we had elections. And for those who participated in that election, you elected members to the 11th Parliament. So the current Parliament of Uganda is called the 11th Parliament of Uganda. That's where we are today. So since 1962, we've had a total of 11 parliaments, okay? And then 8 years without parliament. Have you seen that gentleman before? Yes, the late Right Honorable Jacob Olanya Lokori. He was elected the Speaker of the 11th Parliament. He passed on, may his soul rest in eternal peace, replaced by Right Honorable Anita Annette Among, who is the current Speaker of the 11th Parliament, with Right Honorable Thomas Taiwa. I think you've seen all these people. Yeah, Right Honorable Thomas Taiwa is the Deputy Speaker of the 11th Parliament. And then in parliamentary practice, we shall look at the kingpins in Parliament. That is our composition. 557 members of Parliament. Yes, it's a quite small Parliament. If we look at our population of over 40+ million, The number of districts of Uganda today, 146. The constitution says every district of Uganda must be represented by one woman representative. For those of you who will discuss affirmative action at some stage, that is one of the affirmative action avenues. A representation of women for every district of Uganda, 146. The UPDF, the National Army, has 10 representatives. Then affirmative action for the youth, 5. PWDs, 5. Workers, 5. The elderly persons, 5. And then the ex-officials. Who are the ex-officials? Persons appointed by the president to serve as ministers, and they don't hold a constituency. They come to parliament as ex-official members of parliament. Okay? Look at the first lady. The first lady no longer holds a constituency. She used to be a member of parliament for Ruhama, but she didn't stand for election again. The Attorney General. We have 28 of them. They're ex-official members of parliament. So that is our composition of parliament today. 557 members of parliament. That's the Parliament House, the plenary. We shall visit it tomorrow. It's a small space, but we struggle to squeeze 557 members of parliament into that space. Parliament is multi-party. We have two sides of the house. One side is the government side, which is to the right hand of the speaker, and the prime minister and leader of government business is Right Honorable Nabanja, and the opposition side. So when you come to parliament, you might have a chance to meet the leader of the opposition. All parties in parliament, other than the NRM, other than the party in government, are commanded by the leader of the opposition. The visits to parliament are free of charge. You don't pay. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Apologies for taking up all your time. Thank you so much. Let's meet at parliament on Friday.